Hi Capricorn, welcome to your October 2016 love reading. As you can see, I've already put out the cards. I actually started the reading and had to stop because of a loud noise, and then I started again. I'm just going to do the whole file as one unit because it's easier that way for me, and I'm hoping that there won't be any more disruptions. But anyway, I mentioned that the overall theme of October for your love life is the Two of Wands. And as you see, this person's holding a globe. So they're looking at something more than their backyard. It's a card that can indicate not knowing whether you should stay or go somewhere. And I also noted that it was strange to see another person's hand holding one of the rods or the wands. And I still have to get a bit of understanding of that because this is the Morgan Greer deck, not the Rider-Waite deck. But, you know, my first thought is perhaps it has to do with, you know, choosing between two people. Because sometimes when you see twos or you see threes, there could be three parties involved. And someone has to choose. Especially with the two, there's a decision that might have to be made. I'm thinking that it is along the variety of something, you know, related to a revelation, a relationship, rather than, you know, just moving for the sake of moving or for business. Because the Tower card usually to me is some kind of a shocking event. And in a love reading, you know, we would say it's like walking in on someone having an affair or, you know, getting some kind of seeing their email or whatever, somehow somebody telling you something, you finding out something. And if that's the case, it's causing you to wonder, should I, you know, leave or should I stay with this person? And I also mentioned that the Two of Wands can relate to an actual fire sign individual that you're dealing with, Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. If I had to make a bet, it would probably be with the Aries overall, but I suppose anything is possible. But in any case, since the overall theme is the Two of Wands, you may be kind of on the fence, and there's an indecisiveness. In terms of how you feel, you may feel ambivalent about something. You may not really want to do either one of the choices if you have two choices. So it can be a bit up in the air, so to speak. And then we get for the near future or, you know, even the current position, the Four of Wands. So this could be about happy home, marriage, you know, just domestic bliss, moving into a new home. So there, you know, basically if I had to analyze those three cards, I would say that for those that this is appropriate, that you are reeling from something that happened and now are not sure. Maybe you had an engagement with somebody and you found out that they cheated. And now you're not sure because you really want that happy home. You know, that Four of Wands is what you know, that's what you had your eye on. And you don't want to just totally give up on that dream. But on the other hand, you're not sure you can trust the person. And the higher perspective of this, so this is a spiritual message for you regarding the situation, is the Magician card. And I love to get it, especially in this position, because it's telling you that the power is within you. You have it at hand. You know, the card represents self-mastery. And, you know, in these kinds of situations where there's a shock, it's so easy to get thrown off and, you know, you start to question yourself. If you know, let's take a very typical example. If somebody cheats on you, it's very human and it's very typical for people to question their own self-worth, or, you know, do I have what it takes to have a partner? Because this person, you know, in other words, looking down on themselves based on that person's decision. And, you know, Capricorn is a traditional sign. Obviously, that's a generalization, but in general, I feel very confident of stating that, and that's why this is right up your alley. You want that kind of stable home life, and you want a happy home life, the domestic bliss, more than the average person. Even if you personally are working a lot of hours and can't really enjoy your home, you still want to have it. And because of that, there can be a lot of, I think there can be a lot of challenges, because you're dealing with people who may not either be on the same page, or they don't know what they want, you know, and it doesn't reflect on you. If somebody cheats on you, that's on them. That's their confusion, or maybe even not feeling compatible with you. Even if somebody said, you know what, we're not compatible, I want to break up, that wouldn't say anything against you. So that's the trap that all people get into, is that they start to question themselves, they feel rejected, and they think that there's something wrong with them, and none of those things is correct. So basically, what I can say about that situation is that it's okay to want what you want, but you also have to deal with reality. And if you've had something being shown to you in your face about something that your partner did that was not acceptable, and you're still on the fence about it, really consider whether or not you want to keep hooked with this person. Because a situation like that, if it's a negative situation where you never can trust where they are, and, you know, if they're telling the truth, even if they apologize and say that they won't do it again, you may still be plagued with doubts over it. As a matter of fact, the card that crosses you is a card of somebody who is really having trouble. You know, this is someone, I think even in the reverse position, this is a card of somebody who is, well, in the reverse position, I think it's better. But because this is a challenge card, then I would read it upright. Some upright cards are actually the challenge position. And it's somebody who is really blinding themselves. So that's why I say that about if you have been shown something, maybe the universe, your angels wanted to show you something, and you're still turning a blind eye. You know, she has a blind eye. She's got a blindfold. She's not seeing. She doesn't want to see. She only sees what she wants to see. And that leaves her being trapped, because, you know, how can you progress if you're going to stay willfully ignorant about a situation? The attitude to adopt is represented by the Eight of Wands. And you see we have a bunch of Wands cards. The Wands relate to fire signs. So there could be a fire sign energy. By the way, this person in the challenge position, if that's a person, it could be an air sign. Maybe an air sign was involved with that tower situation in some way. So we're talking about a Gemini or an Aquarius or a Libra individual. And the fire energy represented by the Wands is creativity, passion, career, ambition, I should say, and things like that. But in a love reading, it can point to a lot of passion, but is there commitment? You know, it could be just love affair, having a love affair, and this could be something very quick. you know, something that comes in out of the blue. And I don't know that it has lasting power, though. It can be good news. So as an attitude, it's like realizing that at any moment your luck can change for the better. And you might hear something and you might get some news. Usually what they say about the Eight of Wands is that you have to be able to react quickly to whatever it is that you hear. So it's almost like in some cases it can be an offer, because again, I get this feeling, you know, that it could be some job situation. Maybe you're afraid to move because, you know, you're in love with somebody that's in your current location, and you're afraid that if you leave, then you guys are going to break up, or you're not going to have that level of relationship. And, you know, that's always possible. But you don't ever want to give up on your career goals or whatever else, the good things that are happening in your life, because you're afraid of a relationship not working out. Because that almost in itself indicates that the relationship might be not very stable if you are too concerned about that person sticking around. So that's definitely something to consider. You should always be able to trust the person that you're with. And if you have to go to another city, I mean, maybe if you're like in college or something like that, it's very hard for younger people because they're still growing and expanding very rapidly. So they can change their minds, their belief systems a lot quicker than somebody who's older, who's not expanding as rapidly, you know, who has kind of settled down. And, you know, we have different phases of life. And so it depends on, you know, I guess your phase of life too. But just a thought about that. The action steps represented by the Hermit. So it's about going within. It's seeking the inner light or the inner illumination versus, I think a biggie is other people's opinions, you know, calling people up and getting their feedback. Sometimes that might be appropriate, but I think a lot of times people do it too often, you know, when it comes to their relationships. They seek the approval of others or the opinions which lead to the approval of other people. And those people have their own conditioning. Another person cannot tell you what your path is. And even if you are severely deluded, it's not really, if somebody else imposes their own opinions on you, then they're not really a good sounding board. But, you know, there are times when people really can be helpful. And I think that, you know, Capricorn, you're the type of person that you may not typically even do such a thing. You may definitely keep your situations to yourself. I think that, you know, even though the Hermit is associated with Virgo, I think sometimes Capricorn can be the Hermit. I think that you're perfectly capable of being alone and also to being quite wise. So it might be one of those times when you're going to have to kind of disengage from the outer world for a bit, because you may have people coming at you who are going to put in their 2 cents because they know the situation already. Maybe they know that your husband or wife cheated on you. Maybe they already heard through the grapevine. Maybe they know that you have a job offer and they want to tell you what they think is the right thing to do. But, you know, it's really not their call. And right now, it might be a case where you need to just kind of be a little bit more within yourself. The outcome is the Knight of Swords. So if there was an air sign person, it might turn out that that's the person. If you were choosing between two people, that might end up being the person you decide that you want to be with. Or that person may help you in whatever it is that you're dealing with right now. Maybe it's on the platonic level. But I also think that the Knight of Swords can definitely be you for some of you. If you are in a marriage, you may seek out a Knight of Swords, which is like a lawyer type of figure. So that you may finally come. And you know what? Actually, this card and this card, it could be that you're contemplating leaving, but you're thinking of that home, and you're thinking about, oh, do I want to split it up? And then you finally decide, I have to do that. It's kind of like a lost cause. And so I think that might be for a lot of people, because the Knight of Swords can be a lawyer. But it could be you, and you could be a lot more, it's like the Knight of Swords and this card are like night and day, because the Knight of Swords is really about telling the truth and seeing things as they are and being like really upfront about things. And so it's almost like you get liberated by this experience, and you're no longer having this sense of oppression that this card represents, because it may have been something that you had been experiencing anyway. Even before the thing that happened, you may have already been experiencing oppression, feeling like your life was not where you wanted it to be, your relationship wasn't working out, and maybe you were just caught up in this fantasy about the perfect home, and you thought, I have to do this no matter what. And then you realize, at the end of all of this, you realize that that's just, the happy home can only happen with the proper players. You can't have a happy home without people who are happy within that home and who really want to be together. So sometimes the Tower card can be quite a blessing. It can be a liberation, really. In the short term, it can just be downright shocking and unsettling, But I think that you're going to come out on top regardless of what's happening, Capricorn, and I wish you a wonderful month. I do private readings, and you can click on the link below this video where I have a link to my website. And otherwise, you take care of yourself in October. Bye.